what I was asking, because I don't want to misrepresent Islam, I want to understand if I have the right idea or if I'm...
Are you a Christian yourself? Or?
I am a Christian, yes.
This brother is a quite sincere man.
That's very nice. Thank you. No, that's very good. No. Thank you for the question. I will answer the question.
Sure, okay.
There's two premises that are important to get started or to have as base premises before we continue our discussion about inheritance in Islam.
Okay.
Premise one, the inheritance law in Islam is not it's not exclusively mentioned in the Quran. That's one. Premise two, that the inheritance nowhere in the Quran or the Sunnah has to be only one. It can be less than one and more than one.
Less than one, I understand. Sorry, what do you mean by that? Less than one
Yes.
and more than one?
Okay.
What do you mean?
For example, in the Quran, in chapter 4, verse 11 and 12, the ones that you were talking about,
Yes.
where it says, يُوصِيكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي أَوْلَادِكُمْ لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظُّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ فَإِنْ كُنَّ نِسَاءً فَوْقَ اثْنَتَيْنِ فَلَهُنَّ ثُلُثَا مَا تَرَكَ وَإِنْ كَانَتْ وَاحِدَةً فَلَهَا النِّصْفُ ولأبويه لكل واحد منهما السدس مما ترك إن لم يكن لهم ولد فإن كان لهم ولد فلهم الثلث مما تركتم. Now, what is this verse talking about?
In Arabic, I cannot tell you.
No, I'll tell you what it says. Let's take it step by step. If a man, all he has is 3 daughters. A man has 3 daughters. Or let's say he has 2 daughters. How much will those daughters... Like, he doesn't have any parents. His parents are dead. He doesn't have any sons. Okay? And all he has is daughters. So how much of the inheritance will they get? They will get 2/3. Because it says... Because in the Quran it says وَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاءً فَوْقَ اثْنَتَيْنِ فَلَهُنَّ ثُلُثَا مَا تَرَكَ. If there were any women that were more than 2, then 2 or more, then they have 2/3 of what he has given. So in this situation, what happens to the rest of the inheritance? It's less than 1. You see, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said you can leave 1/3 of the rest of the inheritance maximum as a wasiyah. And he says, الثُّلُثُ وَالثُّلُثُ كَثِيرٌ. 1/3 and a third is a lot, in fact. So in other words, there's situations in the Sharia where the inheritance can be less than 1. For a situation where 2 or more daughters are left behind. It's 2/3 of the inheritance and 1/3 we have to find out what to do with it then. Okay. We can go to charity if he has a wasiyah.
I don't find that problematic.
Not problematic at all. Now the same thing applies if the inheritance goes over 1. Because the premise has never been that 1 is the total estate can only represent the mathematical 1 in mathematics. The mathematical 1 in mathematics, nowhere in the Quran or in the Sunnah does it say that is the barometer for all inheritance and that it has to fit a mathematical 1. Had the Quran said that the inheritance has to be consistent with the mathematical 1, a whole, in mathematics, and then there had been scenarios whereby that was not possible, where it went under or over, then there would have been a contradiction in the Quran. But since the Quran doesn't make this...
That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, the Quran never says it has to be over or under 1.
But could you explain to me how it can get over 1?
So, give me 1 second.
So just to answer this question, on the question of, this has been us, because it's called awl. Awl is a situation where we have 2 things, something called al-Umariyya, another called Minbariyya. Literally, one of the Khulafa Rashidin al-Mahdiyin, the Prophet's friends and family, Ali ibn Abi Talib. He was asked about what happens when it goes over 1. So he told us the situation. How would we divide it? How would we divide it? Okay. So in the situation where you have 2 daughters, 2 or more daughters, let's say 2. 2 daughters, 1 wife, 2 parents. Okay, so the 2 parents would get 1/6. So 1/6 plus 1/6 equals 1/3. Okay. The wife would get 1/8, and the two daughters will get 2/3, which means it's 1 and 1/8. Okay. So what happens is, I don't have a board here, but the original denominator would be 24. So you have a denominator. The lowest common multiple is 24.
The lowest common multiple of what?
The lowest common multiple of those fractions is 24. So let me tell you what I mean by that. So what does 1/3, 1/8, 24 is the lowest common multiple. Now, if we have 1 and 1/8, the lowest common multiple it changes to 27. To 27. Because whereas all of 1/3 and 1/8 and 1/6 can go into 24.
Yes.
When we're talking about now, you have 1 and 1/8 as the total sum, which means the denominator has to be out of 24, which means 27, which means it becomes an improper fraction, comes over 1%. So whereas before the parents,
No, not 1 and 1/8 it becomes 9/8. It is 9
yes,
over 8.
exactly, it's 9/8.
So the denominator is not 27.
No, but if you want to represent 9/8, which is an improper fraction, in a way which has a denominator which can fit all of the fractions in it, the denominator becomes 27.
Okay, at least mathematics, and this doesn't sound right.
No, it's right. Trust me.
I must have
No. So let's stick with 9/8. 9/8 is an improper fraction because the numerator is more than the denominator. Okay, if the numerator is more than the denominator, it's an improper fraction. It's 1 and 1/8. No problem. So now we have to go back to our cake, because if you think of the estate as a cake, or let's say an apple, then what necessarily happens is everyone now gets a smaller portion of the cake.
So do you call then the whole thing 1 and 1/8?
Yes. So
and
1
then you divide.
1 and 1/8, or 9/8,
Yes.
or denominator 27 becomes the new 1.
Okay.
So 1 transfers to 9/8. So which means that becomes so now instead of the parents getting 1/1 or 1/6 each, they'll get less than that. Instead of the wife getting 1/8, she'll get less than that, and so on and so forth. So everyone's share decreases. Just like if, for example, it went under 1/1, everyone's share would increase.
I understand now. Now I
Yeah,
understand. Sure,
yeah.
sure.
So if the
So when I read it as someone who doesn't understand the Quran, it seems that something doesn't add up.
yes,
And of course mathematics is something that can be objective. So I was wondering how Muslims
how would you do that?
will
Yes.
deal with that. And thank you for explaining that to me, because
Anytime.
now I understand how it works. So that's fine.
No, that's fine. So the point is this: is that the premise is never that if 1 was the barometer of all mathematical consistency that we have. It can go over 1, it can go under 1. So but in most cases, and this is the reality, that it will fit in 1. In most cases, I would say over 95% of cases. These are anomalous cases that we've talked about, where it goes under or over 1, because usually people have, let's say, sons. If they have sons, it's usually an easy equation because the son gets half, etc., whatever. Get the son away. Now you have the wife. And by the way, this is really interesting. Let me tell you why. One of the common attacks against Islam is that the inheritance law for a man is more than it is for a woman.
I wasn't aware of that.
Well, I know it, but it's not really true, because in some cases, like for example, we just talked about a situation where the man and the woman get the same, because the father and the mother get 1/6 each. 1/3 each if there's no son, and 1/6 each if there is a son. So let's say 1/6 each. And in the situation, the biggest proportionality of any inheritance given to any subgroup is that which is given to 2 or more females, which is more than that which is given to sons, by the way. So because there's no verse in the Quran which says that if 2 or more sons, etc., then they have 2/3.
But it says, if I remember well.
But then, the son gets, yes, half.
So
Yes.
If he has, for example,
Yes.
2 sisters.
Yes.
and they get
The son, the right thing to say be that the son gets the most out of the inheritance of all inheritors, not that men get more than women. Because in some cases, men get more than women. In some cases, women get more than men, and in other cases, they get the same. Yeah, but that's it, really.
Okay, so it kind of balances.
Yes.
Sure.
Does that help it?
Yeah, it does help. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks a
man.
lot.
Thank you.
Remind me your name?
Mohammed.
Mohammed.
Nice to meet you, man. You too, man.
All the best, eh?
Anytime, man. Anytime. Thank you.
Last week.
Hi, are you well?
Yeah, I'm alright. That's the film.
See you.
It's going to Maraboli.
See you.
Brother